Whether the guys coming in this weekend or those at the end of June, do you get any sort of feedback about their progress since the end of the high school season and any big developments there about weight they've added or how they're doing?
Yeah, you get an idea. You get feedback, obviously, from the guys. You know, they just from throwing with the guys or running with the guys. A lot of the older players will kind of give you feedback, especially, obviously, the kids that they've been really impressed by. And the same thing from the strength staff, but not a whole lot. You know, not a whole lot. But I do think the extra 6 weeks, I think, is significant. So, you know, so it'll be interesting because now when the rest of the freshman class shows up, you'll have those 6 guys plus those 4 guys that can kind of help them from an adjustment standpoint because they've already kind of started the process.
The 4 guys that are coming in, what specifically do you want to see out of each of them throughout, I guess, the summer? And what do you think each of them can learn in this, build up to fall camp?
Really no different than any of the rest of them. It's 6 weeks earlier, so 6 weeks more time to get comfortable socially, to kind of build some friendships and figure out who their big brothers and mentors are going to be, those types of things. 6 more weeks in the weight room, which is a considerable amount of time, especially for the true freshmen because they usually have the biggest gains because it's such a dramatic change for them. But it's more time. It's more time for them to get comfortable. It's more time for them to learn the playbooks. It's more time for all those things. So, I think there's significant value. But it's not like we're looking for anything different from those 4 than we are for the whole freshman class. I think, they're going to be further ahead, obviously.
Hey, you said something yesterday, I think, about the toughness the Big Ten East. Beyond the scheduling, do you do anything differently, or how do you do things differently when it's maybe the toughest division in college football?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that you do something different, but you have to be aware. Obviously, depending on what conference you play in or what side of the conference you play in or what your out-of-conference schedule looks like and those types of things, you need to be aware of it. It's no different than having an awareness if you play a night game on the road or you play a whiteout nationally televised game, you probably need to make some modifications of your practice that following week. And I think that's where a lot of the sports science stuff is going to be helpful for us. And I know it's been helpful for me already, that you can't just go week to week to week like everything's exactly the same. You're going to have to make some subtle adjustments to make up for some of those things so that you can be as recovered and as prepared as you possibly can be each Saturday. I think the other thing is obviously, you're going to have some opponents that you're going to play every year that are going to be challenging, and how do you make sure in the off-season from a coaching perspective that you emphasize them? I think everybody in the country does summer studies or summer game plans on certain opponents, whether it's the first 4 or whether it's the first 4 and 2 or 3 opponents. I know some of these teams that have long-standing rivalries, they treat those teams completely different and kind of approach them different all year long with shot-down clocks, countdown clock type things in their building and those types of things. But for us, it's more of an awareness, and every year we're in the league, we get more familiar. But I think the biggest thing is the things outside of the conference that you can control. The conference is what it is. So it's all the other things outside of the conference from a scheduling perspective, from a facility perspective, from a technology perspective, things that we can control to try to find a way to gain an edge. It's timing. It's your out-of-conference schedule of when you're playing certain opponents. To make sure that you get those scheduled as early as possible to give yourself the best chance to get the bye week. Because if you don't get your game scheduled and all of a sudden the Big Ten schedules it, there's some people, as we've all seen, that their bye week is week 1. And then they play 11 or 12 straight, which is absolutely crazy. So if you can get games scheduled ahead of time, maybe you can help with solve some of those issues and some of those problems. So it's mainly the things that you can control, try to control them. And the things you can't, you shouldn't be spending a whole lot of time on those rather than your normal preparation.
You talked about differentiating yourself. When you look at the past 2 seasons from 50,000 feet, do you go, Ohio State is better at us at these things that we need to get better at, or do you just go, we lost a football game and that is how it works? I mean, what is the balance between, there's a game that gets played and sometimes it doesn't matter how fancy your TV is, you just lose, or Are they better in some areas than you are?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I don't think you can look at it just that plainly. It was a loss. Well, why did we lose? And I think we do that on Sundays after each game. Why did we win? And I'd make the argument the losses are easy because the losses force you to look at your issues. Where I think a lot of mistakes are made is the wins. And the wins, and a lot of times we talk about in our building all the time, the wins can kind of be deodorant over a funk that exists. It's the old, I'm not going to take a shower, I'm going to put on some cologne. So I think you have to be, kind of more urgent and more detailed and more critical after wins. Because if not, those things that you're doing poorly or not playing smart football in certain areas and things like that, that's as coaches and that's as players, that's going to come back to haunt you at some point. At some point, someone's going to take advantage of that because they've been watching and studying on film. So, yeah, the losses, you pretty much get hit in the face with reality of where you're strong and where you're weak. And then to your point, you can also say, okay, not only are we strong in this area and are we weak in this area, but where is there the gap between the programs that we're trying to compete with? Where does it show up on our roster? Where does it show up from a scheme perspective? Where does it show up from a recruiting perspective? Where are the challenges? But then you better be doing the same thing, during the wins. Because the best teams, they've identified what your weaknesses are on film. They've identified what your weaknesses are as an organization. I think that's why it's so challenging. And you see the passion from the fan bases and sometimes the aggressiveness with the coaching staffs from a competitive standpoint, because that's what's happening year round. People are identifying what your weaknesses are as an organization, as a program, and you're attacking it year round. They're attacking it on the football field from scheme. They're attacking it in recruiting through knowledge that they've learned about your organization. That's why it's so challenging. And I think the Big Ten's probably changed. Me and Urban had a pretty good conversation about this at the Big Ten meetings in Arizona, about how the league has changed, since when he first got here till now. So, it's interesting, but I also think that's what makes it so exciting. That's why I think people are so prideful in what the Big Ten and what the Big Ten's doing right now.
James, you were in Philadelphia yesterday. A guy there, Doug Peterson, earned a lot of praise for using analytics for when to go for it on fourth down, things like that. Has that affected you guys? Are you guys looking more into that moving forward?
You haven't covered us, obviously, that much. Yeah, we talked about analytics a lot. Yeah, we're a big analytic team. Internally, we do that. Mike Hazel, our director of football operations, he's the guy that's kind of the liaison between the outside analytics organizations, and everybody kind of has a different approach. There's some analytics people that come to tell you, and you're supposed to follow this like to a T. And what we found and what I found is where the analytics are important is kind of what we were just talking about with Ben, is after the game. So the analytics can tell you, okay, you made this choice in the game on fourth down, you made this choice in the game on third down, you made this choice in the game to punt or kick a field goal or not go for a touchdown, whatever it may be. And they give you feedback. The percentages say that was the right decision, the percentages say that was right. So that's good for growth, to challenge yourself. And I don't always necessarily agree with the analytics, but it's still good to challenge yourself. And I'd say the same way on the front end. The analytics are good from a hiring practice. We use it in hiring. It's good from a game management perspective to challenge yourself. And for me, it's my gut is telling me something. And if the analytics back up what my gut is telling me, it makes me feel good. I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. My gut feels that way. The staff is telling me that, and the analytics say that we're right. And then you have the opposite time when your gut is telling you one thing and the analytics tell you another, and it challenges you. You may still come to the same conclusion, but it forces dialogue. It forces you to have a discussion. Hey, the analytics are saying the opposite. Let's have a conversation. And Ricky Ronnie's always got really strong opinions from his perspective. We had a lot of discussions as a staff, and then at the end of the day, the analytics may have swung us to go in that direction, or the analytics may have just forced us to have a really good conversation about whatever the subject may be, and we may say, you know what, we may need to look at this thing differently, and here's why, and modify how we perceive the situation or how we think about it.